with a case in which it accuses Elon Musk of failing to disclose his stake in X, formerly Twitter, when he acquired the platform in 2022. We're joined now by John Adair, a partner at Adair Goldblatt Bieber. Thanks very much for coming on the show. So just remind us what the latest is. They've been going after Musk over this for quite a while, but what has been the latest move by the SEC?
That's right. So earlier this week, the SEC filed a lawsuit in the federal district court in District of Columbia in Washington, alleging that Elon Musk violated securities law in the period of sort of roughly Q1 of 2022, when in the lead up to the time that he ultimately made a bid to acquire Twitter.
And they are pursuing that case. They're not backing away. And as far as I know, Musk has been defiant here, not saying I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, this is part of a long-running legal battle between Musk and the SEC over a number of issues, including this issue of disclosure requirements that he's alleged not to have met when it comes to his acquisition of shares in Twitter. Mm-hmm. And now the SEC has taken it sort of the next step by filing a lawsuit in district court, but there's been a lot of skirmishing over the last sort of year or two over their efforts to investigate and gather evidence, summons issued to his lawyer, and various people associated with him, and a bunch of, as I say, skirmishing over what investigation they can conduct, and now they're into the stage of launching a full-blown lawsuit. And
he has raised the hackles of the SEC in other areas as well, with comments that he's made.
Yeah, Musk has taken a very defiant approach, sort of similar to perhaps Mr. Trump and other members of the Trump administration. Mr. Musk has taken a very defiant approach towards the SEC in terms of how he deals with them, posted some of his own lawyers' letters on X, and basically attempted to show the SEC that he's not afraid of them and he won't be intimidated by them.
His camp, as far as I know, one of their arguments is, well, Musk didn't file a form when he should have. They seem to be saying it's a bureaucratic oversight.
Yeah, I think that's right, that's what the pitch is. The SEC, I think, would respond by saying it's not just a matter of filing a form for the sake of filing a form. The obligation was to disclose his acquisition of more than 5% of the common shares of Twitter, and there's a market-based reason that exists, which is to make sure that if there's someone who's considering a takeover bid or acquiring a substantial stake in a company like Twitter, that the investing public knows that, and people who have shares of Twitter and are considering selling them are fully informed, and people who are considering buying shares of Twitter are fully informed. And so I think the SEC would take a very different view about the importance of filing a form, as it were.
Because the thinking would be that the sellers of Twitter might have held out for a higher price if they knew he had the stake.
That's right. So he was required to file the form within 10 days of obtaining a 5% interest in Twitter, and he didn't file it for an additional 11 days. So it took him 21 days to file, 11 days beyond the 10-day period. And one might say, well, what's the big deal? It's a matter of 11 days of filing a form. But in those 11 days, at least according to the SEC's complaint, Mr. Musk acquired an additional $500 million worth of Twitter shares. And on the day he did file the form, the very next trading day, the price jumped by 27%.
Oh.
So the allegation is you ought to have done that earlier, because everybody knows when someone like that starts acquiring a big stake, it can move the price of the stock, as it did. And the allegation is that by waiting those additional 11 days, he saved that 27% on the $500 million worth of shares that he purchased, so roughly $135 million of savings for him.
Is there any indication what kind of penalty he might face here?
Yeah, so the SEC has asked in their complaint for two things. The first is disgorgement of the profit he made, meaning return of the profit he made, and the second is a civil monetary penalty. At the end of the day, based on the way the statute works, it's likely that they would get a maximum of a disgorgement of the profit that he made, unlikely that they'd get that plus a penalty on top of it. But that does lead to a maximum of about 135 to 150 million US dollars, depending on how you do the math.
For normal human beings, that's a lot of money, but not necessarily for Musk.
Yeah, depending on sort of how you, what website you look at, that's anywhere from 3 to about 10 days of earnings for Mr. Musk.
Now, Trump has a new nominee to head the SEC, Paul Atkins. Is it possible to speculate at this stage as to whether the SEC might back away from this under Paul Atkins?
Well, there's no public indication of whether that will happen one way or another, although there are some signs, perhaps. This does sort of come at the 11th hour and 11th and 59 minutes, perhaps, of the Biden administration. It does have the feel a bit of a parting shot by the Biden administration, and I guess one could reasonably question the extent to which the incoming SEC chair will go after someone who's positioned to be an important member of the Trump administration.
Yeah, I get the feeling the Biden administration is doing a lot of parting shots, the big sanctions on Russia and banning the red food dye. But anyway, that's beyond the purview of us.
It does certainly seem that way.
Yeah, thank you very much, John, for joining.